Hey, welcome back to the Superhuman Resilience Project. My name is Kara, and we're here to support veterans and first responders and other high capacity humans with real tools, real conversations, and real community. Now, last week we talked a little bit about awareness and how awareness wasn't enough, that we need more than just a hashtag. And that's what we want to talk about today. Because without action, awareness just becomes performative. So today's episode, Turning Awareness into Action, is going to be with me and my friend, Brenda Dietzman. Brenda, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It is so awesome to be here. I love doing podcasts.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm just getting started and we're working on it. So, Brenda, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your
Oh my
background?
goodness. That's always such a fun question, right? I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I grew up on a dairy farm, which really informed a lot of who and what I am with work ethic and, just getting things done. I went to college and got into law enforcement because I wanted to be Christine Cagney, and I know only a few people probably on your podcast are going to recognize that name, but
I know
it
who Sharon Glass is.
it was a television show back in the 80s where there's two female detectives at NYPD, and boy, I wanted to be Christine Cagney. So got into law enforcement, fell in love with the profession, had 25 years on, getting ready to retire, 24, 25 years on, getting ready to retire. The sheriff calls me up, let's go to lunch. I was like, that's never a good thing, right? Because they're gonna want something. And bless his heart, he asked me to be his undersheriff in charge of jail operations. So I was going to be the number two person at the sheriff's office, and I was going to be in charge of our jail here in Wichita, which is unfortunately one of the 100 largest jails in the United States. And I had never been in a pod before. I had no idea how to run a jail. Thank goodness I had good people, because when I took that over, I did 3.5 years, got out on good behavior, and and it was the hardest, but probably some of the most rewarding time in my career. I learned so much. I got to meet so many incredible people, and I'm really glad I did. It was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough, but it was great. I love to travel, much like yourself. I love to get out there. I love to meet new people, have new experiences, see things differently than what I live in, and meet different people who have different struggles and different wins and successes than what the people around me do, that are typically around me do. And I just love that adventure. I also work with an animal rescue, so I go out and help all the puppies and the kitties and the possums and the geese and whatever else needs help. We have a blast doing that. So yeah, and I love to get out in nature. I'm a huge nature person and love photography. Absolutely love photography.
And are fantastic at photography. Um, and you're also the co-founder of Wayfinder Consulting. Tell us a little bit about Wayfinder.
Yeah, so I retired when I was 52 years old. Knew I wasn't just going to sit around and do nothing, so I decided to start a business, which is the icky part of doing what I do. But you got to have the business to pay the taxes and do all the things, right?
Right.
And now I go out and mainly I do training. I actually get to go and speak in Iceland later this year, which is going to be just epic. But I've already been, I think, in like 18 states this year, and I just again, get to meet some pretty incredible human beings out there doing some really good work, and get to share a little bit of my wisdom and knowledge, and get a little bit of their wisdom and knowledge in return as well. So.
Well,
And
that's
then I
awesome.
do a little consulting work on the side. I do a little writing on the side. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, Brenda, your entire career has been about service and leadership and humanity, and it's truly an honor for us to have you here on the Superhuman Resilience Project.
Good to be here.
You know, we've talked about this before, and awareness is kind of a starting line, but it's not the finish line. The hashtags create the visibility, but the visibility without action leaves people unsupported. The communities we serve, our veterans, our first responders, they need more than acknowledgement. They need tools and community and sustainable practices. You talk a lot about the difference between knowing something and doing something about it. Can you share your perspective on why action matters so much?
You know, you can read a book on how to fly an airplane, how to swim, how to do all of those things, right? But it takes getting out there and actually doing it and learning it by doing it that allows you to master it. I could probably tell you all day long exactly how to swim, but if you don't know how to swim or you've never been in water, um, you're probably going to struggle a little bit when you first get in. I don't care if you have a PhD in swimming, right? So um, it's and it's also important to experience things and not just learn about them, but experience them. And that's what travel does that for me, and meeting different people and talking to different people. But yeah, we have to get out there and we have to experience these things, and it also makes our life feel longer if we do that, because we've all heard the old adage that time flies as you get older. Well, the reason is because we don't experience novel things anymore. I mean, when we were 5 years old and we found a bug or a frog or a firefly or what, we were like on top of the world. We were going around and we were showing all of the adults in the room, look at this. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And we were just awed by everything because everything was new. Well, as we age, everything becomes older, and we've been there, done that. So, how do you experience things that you've already experienced before, but seeing it in a new light? One of the things I like to do when I travel is I like to take people with me who have never been to wherever we're going, because I've seen it before, right? I've experienced it before, and I still take it in because the smells, the sights, the things change, right? But one of the things I enjoy doing is I enjoy looking and watching them experiencing it for the first time, because it kind of brings that back for me when I saw it for the first time. So yeah, I think to make our life longer or feel longer, right? Because it's not about the length so much; it's about the quality of the life, right? At least it is for me, and I hope it is for a lot of people. But we need to see things that we've already done in a new light, as well as experiencing and trying new and different things to wake our brains up, because we get stuck in ruts. I mean, we get stuck in a what I call an autopilot life, and we just cruise through it. And our minds pay attention to inconsistencies, to irregularities in life, and they kind of shut down when we're doing the same thing over and over again. It's like driving home. I mean, how many people have ever driven home and they get there and they have no idea how they got there? It's because we create shortcuts in the back of our head that allows us to do it kind of on an autopilot, and we're thinking about something else, like what's for dinner, what the kids did at school today, whatever. But we really need to get off of autopilot. And I challenge people, like the drive home, that's the typical thing everybody brings up, right? On your drive home tonight, or on your drive into work today, or right now if you're in the car listening to this podcast, look around and find something new. You might have driven this road 1,000 times, but discover something new about it, and just pay attention to it, and it will make your life feel longer.
That's awesome. That kind of brings us to a point there that I was thinking about, because when we were discussing this episode, you used a phrase that I loved. And you talked about how people are often living in a waiting room. So, can you explain what that means and why so many people get stuck in their waiting room?
So I think everybody feels this, right? You understand what I'm saying even before I explain it. But I want you to think about like a waiting, any type of waiting room. And the one I like to think about is at the airport, right? So, I often joke that it's sometimes easier to drive somewhere and takes less time to drive somewhere because you got to get to the airport, a couple hours early, and then you got to sit there, and then it's delayed and all this other stuff. Well, we're sitting there waiting to go, right? Waiting to launch. And while you're sitting there and you're sitting around with a whole bunch of other people that are waiting to, maybe they're going to a business meeting, then maybe they're going on vacation, maybe they're taking their kids to Disney World for the first time, maybe they're, traveling to a foreign country for the first time, or going to a new state for the first time, or whatever it is. And everyone's sitting there just waiting. And it takes somebody, right, the flight attendant, the airport people, to go, okay, we're now boarding, and then everybody gets up and goes. Too often in life, we have all of these plans, but nobody initiates us to go and actually do the thing, right? So, and that's where it comes back to us, where we have to get out of the waiting room and get out of the planning and get out of the, I'm going to do this like this weekend or on vacation or when I retire. We're just sitting in a waiting room when we live life that way because we have a tendency, especially the helping professions that we're all in. There's so much purpose and meaning behind it that it becomes our identity. So that becomes our life. And then on the weekends we do things or we rest up from the work week, whatever it is. And we're just sitting in this waiting room waiting to do things. And I tell people all the time, you don't know if retirement's coming. I hope it is. I hope everybody has a super long, awesome, healthy, amazing retirement. But it may not happen. I worked in an organization where when I worked there, we had 5 deputies that were killed in the line of duty, which was a huge amount, huge percentage for an organization our size. And they never got retirement. So what are you going to do tonight, right? I challenge people, like if you live with someone, even if it's a dog, a cat, good luck, but with a dog, right? On your way home, give them a call, or if it's the dog, like give them the intention of when I get home, just get in the car. And the first question out of that person's mouth is going to be, where are we going, right? And even if it's a dog, like, you want to go? They're going to be like, yeah, we don't know where we're going to go, but where are we going to go? I don't care, let's go. A human's going to be like, where are we going? And you go, I don't know, just get in the car, right? And then just get in the car and just go do something new, right? Or different. Or go to that same restaurant you've been going to for the past 10 years and eat something new this time. Just try something on the menu that you've never tried. But again, waking your brain up and getting out of that waiting room and doing it now. Because we have a tendency to, again, sit in the waiting room, waiting for the weekend, waiting for vacation, waiting for retirement. We can't do that. We just can't do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I honestly, I kind of chuckle a couple times when you were talking about that because those are some things that I recognize from my life. That phone call on the way home from work, and it's, what's for supper? It's like, and sometimes my answer is, it depends where we're going. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
um,
yeah. There's actually a restaurant in Dodge City, Kansas, and I have not been yet. But the next time I speak out there, because I go out and speak every once in a while, um, it's called the I Don't Care Restaurant, and you can literally walk in and give them your food allergies, and they will just bring you food. You have no idea because what's the first thing if you're married or if you have a partner or spouse, whatever. When you get home, the very first thing, what are we having for dinner? I don't care. I don't care. So take the love of your life or your kid or your whatever to the to the place where they've been dying to go, right? The I don't care restaurant. And I cannot wait to try that because I end up with something that I enjoy. So
I'll be great as long as they don't bring me liver and onions.
there you go. There you go. I think it's a lot of comfort food, so I think it's going to be pretty good. So
Well, that being said, awareness without movement keeps us in that waiting room, and that action gets us out. And that's I think the point that is being made there. But let's talk about that from a practical side, because when we're talking about trauma, resilience isn't a theory; it's a practice. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. They don't understand what it means to be truly resilient. And there are many tools that people can use to become more resilient. They can use mindfulness, just being aware of their surroundings. How are they feeling in a moment,
yeah, yeah,
And not necessarily how they're feeling emotionally, but what's it feel like when it's cold outside?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just, what's it feel like when you take a deep breath to relieve some stress and the air fills your lungs? What does that feel like? Those are so many tools. So we've got mindfulness and grounding and journaling, movement, connection, breath work, boundaries, etc. There's all kinds of them. But not every tool works for every person. Your job's got to be to find what works for you. And once you find what works, you have to practice it. You have to have consistency, because all day long, I mean, I'm getting older. I'm retired as well, you know that, but I can't go to the gym and work out like I used to when I
No,
was 25.
no, yeah,
I can't go in and bench press 250 pounds anymore
yeah,
because it's going to fall down on top of me and crush me. Um, but I can still do or get the same results by taking a 3 or 5 pound dumbbell and doing curls from what I used to do from using a 45 pound dumbbell. You know, I can still create that tone. So consistency beats intensity, and practice builds capacity.
yeah,
Unfortunately, too many people are waiting until they're in crisis to learn that skill. I see that so many times. I think it really starts when you're talking about veterans and first responders with a bit of dark humor. Something bad happens and we kind of start making fun of it to be able to just laugh or to shut it off. But the more we do that, the more that stuff builds up in layers. So we have to find more ways. And for those of you who don't know, I met Brenda by taking her classes online through an organization called Pause First Academy. And then later met her when she was brought to our department to speak. And I just happened to be there, and it was the greatest day. I got to meet Brenda, my favorite instructor. So, but you teach this beautifully. But what do you tell people about finding and practicing their tools?
So I think the first thing is that we have to realize, and I love that you use the word practice, right? So there's no perfection in this. Like they say, there's practicing law, practicing medicine, because you can't know everything in law, you can't know everything in medicine, and you'll never become perfect at it. And you will never become so resilient that nothing will ever affect you ever, and whatever. So it's practicing. And there's kind of three levels for me. It's pre-traumatic growth, and then coping with and growing through adversity while you're in it, and then that post-traumatic growth. So you're really talking about that pre-traumatic growth of developing resources ahead of time before you even need them. Because Dr. Basil van der Kolk in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, said this, and he actually said it in an article. It's not actually in the book. But he talks about traumatization occurs when both your internal and external resources are inadequate to cope with an external threat. Okay? So what are internal and external resources? That's that pre-traumatic growth of building resources up before you actually need them. So there's a few categories here. There's the social, which is family, friends, pets, things like that. There's the emotional and mental side of things. There's the physical side of things, and then spiritual. And then spiritual can be religious or not. So, what are you doing in all four of these categories to build them up and develop resources in all four categories, not just one, because please don't skip leg day, okay? And first of all, very impressive weights that you were throwing out there, um, but but don't skip leg day, okay? Because you're gonna need legs someday, okay? And so if you have three of those categories, if you've got spiritual nailed and you've got physical and you've got the mental emotional, but you have no friends or family out there that are there to support you, someday you're going to need that. And so we have to intentionally work at building resources in all four of those categories. And first of all, you have to do an inventory of what you have, and then what you want, and then how do you strengthen the ones that you have? Like if you have a dog, how do you strengthen that relationship with them? All right, maybe you go on walks with them, maybe you spend time looking in their eyes and rubbing their heads or whatever like that. Whatever that looks like. If you're thinking about like the physical side of things, um, that can be financial. So if you have a bunch of financial issues and you're not good with money, then you're going to have a lot of stress just out of that. So, they say that money can't buy happiness, it can buy ice cream, so it's pretty darn close. Um, but but especially if it's peanut butter cup ice cream from Brahms, I'm just gonna throw that out there. But but you've got to be able to build all of these things that you already have, and then start to think about what do you want, right? What are those things that you want? Maybe it's the idea of travel. Maybe it's the idea of getting a good therapist. Maybe it's the idea of starting to journal every once in a while or to meditate. Give it a try, give it a whirl. And again, here's the thing. You're absolutely right. Not all of these things work for everybody. Right? Journaling doesn't work for some people, works for most people if they give it an honest shot though. Meditation, same thing. Okay? But one of the things that I really, really stress is that if it doesn't work for you, don't put it down, right? Don't make fun of it. Don't say it's worthless, because if it works for somebody else, let it work for them, right? Why are you trying to press something down that doesn't work for you? It's like, oh, that's just stupid or woo-woo or whatever. Don't do that, because it helps other people, and if it's helping them, but then they hear you say that, especially if you have a position of authority, it puts a doubt in their mind. And then it might become less effective for them. I don't even care if it's a placebo effect, right? If somebody comes and tells me that if they pull their big toe, their headache goes away, I'm like, that's awesome. I'm going to try it the next time. I mean, do I believe it medically? No. But I'm not going to tell them it doesn't work, because if it works for them, go team, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So I think the importance of that pre-traumatic growth, that building resources in all four of those categories, finding what works for you, what doesn't, and then having that in your toolbox so that when you get into adversity, you can use that to cope and grow through it.
You know, when we started, they didn't really talk to us about the effects of trauma. They didn't teach us about resilience. They just said, you need to get thicker skin. You need to suck it up, buttercup. You need to do, maybe you're just not meant for this. It doesn't work. That's not the case. And honestly, if I have to be truly honest, I have said those things as a leader myself because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But today, trauma-informed leadership is becoming more and more prevalent in those fields, and I think they're still falling short on helping people build resilience from the beginning. But I think they're making strides as far as trauma-informed leadership and starting to make those connections. Now, The problem is that sometimes leaders often share their stories to connect with people, no matter how gruesome, no matter how traumatic, no matter how anything. But oversharing trauma can unintentionally create vicarious trauma for others.
Good point.
And you talked to me earlier or the other day about a concept called sliming.
Yeah.
And sliming is basically dumping the graphic details of trauma onto somebody who does not consent to carry it. So if I'm at a cohort mentoring, I've consented to be there for those people to share their trauma.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
if I am sitting on a train next to a stranger and they start telling me about everything that's happened to them since their childhood and how awful their life has been,
Yeah.
that is sliming. So,
It
because that's
can be.
not
Yeah,
real.
absolutely. Absolutely, it can be.
Um,
Yeah.
so you've taught thousands of leaders how to share without sliming. Why is this so important, especially in high stress situations or high stress professions?
So I learned this concept at a conference just a couple years ago. I doing a keynote at this conference. I got done. I looked at the schedule to see if there was going to be anything that was interesting to go listen to, and I caught onto this one. I looked at this one class and I was like, oh, I got to go, and I went and I didn't look her name up, and I feel bad because I really wish I would have, but um, it was her last class that she was ever going to teach. She was retiring from training, and it was just absolutely amazing. She was so relatable and so kind. Anyway, she talked about this idea of sliming, and I when I got out of the class, I was like, oh my gosh, I do that for impact. But should I be doing that for impact in my speeches? Because I am literally just puking vicarious trauma all over everybody because I'm making them visually see or experience what I experienced. And instead of doing that, like telling the graphic details of, you know, whatever, like a shooting that I was involved in or whatever it was, instead of telling the graphic details, just say, you know what, I experienced. I was involved in a shooting one time. I was involved in an officer that had been shot and killed. I was the first officer out on that. But instead of telling you the details of exactly what I saw, just sum it up like that. That this is what I experienced in my life. It had a huge impact. That those things had huge impacts on me. And here's how I felt about it. And here's what I learned from it. And if you start to get into the feelings and how you grew through it, that actually helps other people do the same thing and learn from those experiences. Because everybody in these professions that are listening to this, right? We've all got stories. And a lot of them, some of them are horrendously gruesome. So we don't need to add to each other's trauma on that. And that whole concept of sliming that she so eloquently taught is don't give the graphic details, just state the fact of this is what I experienced. Like if you're a dispatcher, right? And you get this call of, somebody has suicidal ideations, just say, you know what, they called and this happened and this happened, and then here's how I feel about it, instead of going into exactly what they said, what they did, whatever. Now, if it's a training scenario, then yes, you have to go into those details because there's a sequence of things. But if somebody calls up and even if a dispatcher, and I've never dispatched before, sits and tells me that they've been through a phone call or a call where there's been somebody with suicidal ideations, I can immediately put myself in that situation because I've talked to somebody that's been suicidal before. So I don't need that play by play. I can just go straight to the feelings and what I learned from it, so I can grow as well. And the other thing, I just heard this the other day, and it's so amazing. Brene Brown and Adam Grant have a new podcast called The Curiosity Shop. And they were talking the other day about kind of this same subject. And she goes, if you're sitting on a, like you just gave the scenario of sitting on a train or a bus with somebody, and they just start dumping all of their childhood traumas and everything on you, and that could be considered sliming depending on how they do it. Yeah, that's a lot, and people have a tendency to push back. And one of the things Brene said was, and I feel like I can call her Brene because we're friends. She doesn't know it yet, but we are friends. Anyway.
I know that we are too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think Brene's everybody's best friend, right? So there's the idea of you have to build trust through vulnerability. So you're a little bit vulnerable, you build trust, right? And then you add some more vulnerability, then you add more trust. And it's this back and forth of vulnerability, trust, that allows you to get into deeper and deeper relationships with somebody. Because if you just go in and go blech all over everybody, or all over this person, there's not the trust that's built up to deal with or to handle that amount of vulnerability so quickly. Right? Now there are professions where that's like a therapist. Yes, you're going to go in and go lit all over them right away. That's what's expected. As a speaker, as a trainer, I get that too. Like people coming up and telling me some of the most and I really appreciate when they do this. I appreciate that they trust me enough with this, that they tell me some pretty deep things pretty quickly. There are certain professions where that absolutely happens, and that's okay. Right? So I think we have to think about sliming, and then I think we have to think about building trust through a vulnerability, trust, vulnerability, more trust, vulnerability, more trust, stepping stones.
It's funny that you say that because my friend Sarah, who I mentored for a while before I left the department, she is always telling me, she goes, no matter where we are, people always just come up and start telling you things that I'm amazed they're telling you. And she said, it's like you've got this sign on your forehead that says, I'm here to listen to you.
Yeah. It's okay to tell them anything, yeah.
She goes, I don't know how you do that, but she said especially when it comes to like trauma. She said, people will see you and they will start telling you all this stuff. And she said, you listen so patiently, and then you're just like easing them into, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Now. How are you feeling now that situation's over? And if the situation's not over, what are you doing to get out of that situation? She said, I don't know how you do it, but she said, it's just like people just do that to you.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're talking about by, people coming up to you like that. So I think one of the things that people need to realize is that making that shift from stating what happened briefly and shifting that to how it made you feel is modeling emotional intelligence, and it creates that psychological safety that leaders need to have for their teams. That's not to say that leaders don't need to have somebody too where they can talk as well. So talking about your feelings is not weakness, it's evidence of healing. Most people are like, oh, they're weak because all they want to do is talk, or they cried when something awful happened. But I mean, when I was a little bit younger, I used to cry just because I got pissed off. I mean, it was just, I would get mad. I was like, rah, frustrated, But leaders who can name their emotions create environments for other people to do the same thing. Emotional intelligence transforms teams. And you talked about this already. So why is emotional literacy essential for resilience?
I got introduced to the feelings wheel a few a few years ago, and I absolutely love it. So, you've got 3 rings on this wheel. The inside are the core emotions: man, happy, sad, things like that. And then you've got the next level of emotions and the next level of emotions. If I'm sad, right, what are some good remedies to that? Right, hanging out with friends, or if I'm lonely, let's say that I'm lonely. What's some good remedies to that? Hanging out with friends, going to church, maybe going to bowling league, whatever, right? Maybe it's you know, whatever. But if you're lonely, if you're sad because you're lonely, and the break off part of that in this wheel is you can feel lonely because you either feel abandoned, right, or just you're just lonely, right? You're just by yourself. You're isolated. So what's the remedy between feeling abandoned and feeling isolated? Well, feeling isolated, you call up a friend and you go do something, right? You hang out with somebody, and you're not going to be lonely anymore. But if you have that wound of abandonment, I don't care how many people you hang out with, you're not going to trust that they're going to stick around. So the importance of getting into that third ring of feelings is so important, to find the right remedy to that emotion. And not that emotions need to be fixed, they absolutely need to just be felt, but you need to move through them, right? So you don't get stuck in them. So if I'm feeling abandoned, boy, a good remedy to that is going and doing some work with a really good therapist, right? But if I'm just feeling sad and I have no idea why I'm feeling sad, I might go out and get drunk because that makes me feel happy. But that's not a good remedy if my third ring feeling is feeling abandoned, right? That's actually going to make it worse. So I think it's really important for us to understand what emotions are and get out into that second, third ring so we can find the right way to move through emotions. But it also allows us, especially as leaders, to talk about our emotions intelligently. And again, our best friend, Dr. Brene Brown, has a great book out there called Atlas of the Heart that really helps you do this, that helps you learn about emotions, where you feel them in the body, and even that will help you like learn. Boy, I'm feeling weird, like in my chest or in my shoulder. Oh, I'm stressed out, I'm tired, I'm angry, whatever it is. And that can trigger you to go, okay, is that what I'm actually feeling? Yes, it is. All right, now how do I move through it? And then you can get through it faster and better and more in a more healthy way. So I think it's really important for us to, first of all, understand different emotions, where we feel them in the body, what they do to us, what triggers them, and then how we can move through them better, to get through them, to feel them, to experience them, and then learn from that, and then get better as a human being. But it also helps model that for other people, that if we can say, I'm feeling really frustrated about this situation, that's a lot different than saying I'm mad about a situation, because if I'm mad about it, I'm just mad about it. But if I'm frustrated, it means that I've been working on this problem for a long time and it's not getting fixed. And no one's helping me. So if I understand that as a leader or as a human being, when somebody says they're frustrated with me, I can help identify that as being something that they're having a hard time moving through. So, and then give them guidance to get through, like, you need to talk to this person because this person can actually help you with this problem, type thing. But it also allows people that work around us and for us and with us to express their own emotions, because if we're doing that and doing it in a healthy way, they're going to feel more open to doing that as well.
Let's talk for a minute about the LEAF framework that you shared with me. So LEAF is learn, experience, accomplish, and feel. And when you're teaching that model, we're talking about, what do you want to learn? What do you want to experience in life? What do you want to complete or achieve or accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you want to feel every day?
Yeah.
So, talk to me about how you go about this process, because I know there's you talk about make the list, plan it, do it. So let's have you talk about that for a moment.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I was kind of stuck in a rut in my life, and I realized this after taking the VIA character strengths test, because I wanted zest, which is one of the character strengths, to be like number one, because that's what I want to be known for. That's what I want. That's what I want to get out of life. I want to live a very zestful life. And when I took the test, it was way down at the bottom. It was really embarrassing. I was like, oh my god. I knew I had to make some changes. So I actually looked at, like, what do I need to do to really move through life intentionally, right? How to navigate my journey in this life. And I was like, well, okay, what do I want to learn, right? And then what do I want to experience, right, in life? What do I want to accomplish? And then how do I want to feel every single day, right? So every single day I want to feel awe and curiosity. I want to see something, experience something, do something that makes me go, dang, that was so cool, right? And wake my brain up every day. And then I want to learn something every day as well. I want to expand my knowledge just a little bit more, whether it's about myself, about a trivia, something. I'm trying to learn Norwegian right now. Just anything, right, to wake my brain up and help. First of all, keep my brain healthy, but really get the most I can out of this life. Mary Oliver has a great quote. In fact, I've got it right here. It says, tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life." Right? Um, I love that, and so often again, and it goes back to getting stuck in the waiting room. Right? We're waiting for the weekend. We're waiting for vacation. We're waiting for retirement. Like, what are you doing right now? Because even on your drive to work or drive home, you can look and find something that makes you go, that is so cool. That is so amazing. I mean, look at a tree. A tree is, and I'm looking at a tree right now, looking at a tree, absolutely amazing. That just, I could talk about that for hours, but I'm a little weird that way. But find something that knocks your socks off and get curious about something. What emotion do you want to feel every day? Right? Because it's different for everybody. Maybe it's love, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's joy, whatever. And then put yourself in situations where you are going to learn, experience, accomplish, and feel all of those things eventually, somehow, some way, and work on it every day. And that's what really has turned my life around, because here's what I know. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. Right? So
Right.
people tell me all the time, I want to travel. Okay, where to? I don't know, a beach. Good for you. Now let's pick a place. Okay, now when are you going to go? When are you going to do this? How are you going to save up the money to do this? You got to make a plan, because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. And if you don't know how you're going to do it, you're never going to get there either. So this framework of learn, experience, accomplish, and feel, and you put it into a chart of, kind of going back to those resources that we talked about earlier. Come up with, like, what do you want to learn, experience, and accomplish and feel in your finances, in your wellness, right? In your social life, in your relationships, in your physical wellness, health and wealth, all of in your spiritual journey. What do you want to learn in all of those things? And I've got a chart, and if you want to reach out to me, I can send you a whole bunch of stuff on how to build your resources, all of these things, right? Um, and this chart, and just start filling it in. And then just start spending a little bit of time every day doing those things, either planning or doing them, accomplishing them, whatever it is. Learn, experience, accomplish, and feel. Turn over a new leaf. See what I did there? LEAF, leaf, turn over a new leaf.
I
And
like it.
go out and live an just live a great story, right? Live a great story? Yeah, live a great story.
Yeah, and it's amazing because folks, if you're not familiar with Brenda prior to now, I apologize to you because you're missing out. Uh, Following your story has actually gives me a lot of joy, just like following Nona's way. I've been
Yes.
following that, and
Yeah.
what an amazing story that Kemi has been with Nona, uh, going on their pilgrimage from the Camino de Santiago Trail
Good for you.
in the Great Pyrenees. Um, and you talked about doing it consistently, and I like
Yeah.
that because we're going back to practice here. You've got to do
Yeah.
these things consistently. So, when we spoke, you talked about the 1% of your day rule.
Yeah.
Let's have you expand on that because this fascinates me. So,
Right? So 1% of your day is 14 minutes and 24 seconds, right? Just 14 minutes and 24 seconds, right? 1%. And we think like 15 minutes because we're all awesome, so we're going to round up to 15 minutes. It's like, boy, 15 minutes out of like a work day, that's a lot, right? But you know what? Here's the thing. It's just 1% of your day. So if you're like Brenda, this sounds great. Carrie, this sounds great, but I just don't have time, right? Um, if you don't have 1% of your day to give to me, to give to us, to do this stuff, give me your username and password right now because I will go in and I will blow your calendar up, right? I want you to start spending time on things that are important, not just urgent in your life. So this stuff is what is important, right? Truly living your life, getting everything you can out of it. And I just want you to spend 1% of your day working on your leaf concept, building your resources, whatever it is. Just 1% of your day. And the thing that habit people tell you to do is only allow yourself 15 minutes to do this. Because I guarantee you, we think about going and working out, right? And oh, it's going to take like an hour and it's so long and everything like that. But once you get down there and you start working out, you start feeling good and you keep doing it. It's like, wow, look at the time. It went really fast. So limit yourself to just 15 minutes a day. You can work on it no longer. If you're planning a trip to Europe, you can only work on it for 15 minutes a day. And by the end of the month, if you do that for an entire month, you're going to be like, now I get to work on it as long as I want, and I'm so excited about it. And you'll start doing it longer and better. So whether it's working on your finances, whether it's planning a trip, whether it's building a better relationship with your spouse or a family member, a friend, whatever it is, right? Journaling, meditation, 15 minutes a day, give it a whirl, right? And then move on from there. But 15 minutes a day, 1% of your day, everybody can give me 1%. Everybody. I don't care who you are. Okay?
and that goes back to that consistency again. That
Yeah.
consistent action
Yeah.
is huge. Just a small amount of effort for 15 minutes every day will beat inconsistent effort every day.
Every day.
It just does, and it's kind of like when you talked a minute ago about journaling and how it's for some people and not for some people. But and I love journaling.
Yeah.
I can sit down and write, but then again I write, so that's kind of my
Yeah.
my thing. But I also know people that don't journal because they say, "Well, I don't know what to write." Well, write what comes into your mind.
Yeah.
Draw a picture.
Yeah.
If you feel like your day's been crazy, scribble.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be words. It has to be letting your thoughts out through the ink on that page
Yeah.
or through the lead on that page. And that's really what it is about. And it's very cathartic.
Yeah. It is. It is.
um, Most high capacity people live in urgency. And when I'm talking about high capacity people, we're talking fire, police, soldiers, sailors, Marines, whatever, they're
Yep.
picky about how they're titled, but
Well,
It's all. I'm even talking like emergency room nurses, emergency room doctors, trauma
Right.
docs.
Yeah.
They if those high capacity people live in urgency, and we become used to that. That becomes our normal.
Mhm.
Healing and growth and resilience live in importance.
Mhm. Amen.
So you have to be intentional about making those things a part of your life when you have that high capacity lifestyle. You have to distinguish between those two or you'll never get out of the waiting room. If that makes sense. I'm hoping I'm saying that right.
You are
If
spot on. Yep.
if you don't distinguish those, you'll never get out of your waiting room.
Mhm.
So how can our leaders shift from the reactive to the intentional?
Yeah. Like you said, I think we get stuck in urgent, right? There's so much that's urgent in our life. We have to get to that training. We have to go to work. We have to pick the kids up. We have to make dinner. We have to clean the house. We have to do this. We There's a bunch of have tos out there, right? Um, but what's truly important in our lives? I ask leaders this all the time. What's important in your organization? And they're like, people. The people are, right? At least the good ones say that. And I say that's absolutely right. How much time do you spend in your day making sure that those people are taken care of, that they're growing, that they have everything that they need, right? That they're healthy, that you're helping making them healthy in whatever way that looks. How much time do you spend on that? And I have leaders look at me and go, none, none, right?
Yep.
And it's so sad that, and you can see it on their face. Those leaders who care, they're like, oh, right, because they're so busy putting out fires. And I get it, right? I can't imagine being in the workplace right now and having people working for me because there is so much going on in the world. But they want to, and they know that they should be doing it. And when they're hit with that, whew, and just in our own lives, like what's urgent? Well, going and picking the kids up from school, very urgent, right? If you don't do that, bad things happen. Okay,
Mhm.
but you can also do important things during the urgent times. So have a conversation with them after you pick them up. Don't let them just play on their phones, right? Maybe you put an app on their phone where you can learn something together or grow in some way together. You can do urgent things and do important things at the same time, but it's also important to spend time on what is important in your life. And that goes back to that learn, experience, accomplish, and feel. What do you want to do in your life? And making sure you're spending time on each one of those things. So first of all, you have a better quality of life. You feel like you've lived a better, longer life because you're experiencing more things, you're doing more things, and getting more out of life. But don't just spend on the urgent. Make sure you spend time on what's important as well.
That's. I mean, this is so beautifully said, and it just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, yeah,
It's amazing, like how many people will be traveling with people, and all they're doing is sitting there with all of them. You'll watch like in an airport, and you see this
uh-huh.
family that's obviously training, and they're
Yep,
all like this.
yep, yep.
They have
I
this
love.
amazing opportunity,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
just letting it slip by.
yeah,
And then later they wonder, you know, what could I have done different? Where did they go? Where did the time go?
yeah.
And the time of space, I don't know if you'll remember this, and I'm pretty sure there's probably not a whole lot of people in the audience that remember this, but there was a song called Cats in the Cradle.
Yeah, yeah. I
And you
do.
remember that?
Yeah,
And I just heard this yesterday, and that's why it popped into my mind. But if you don't pay attention, time will slip away from you.
yeah.
And being intentional with that can really change your life. And you also talked about win card or win.
Yeah.
You brought that up a couple times. So we're going to talk about win cards for a minute. And I love this. I've actually already started making some post-it notes. Um, so win cards, what I need.
Mhm.
Um, these help people identify and communicate their own needs clearly because how often do we really pay attention to our own needs? And they also reduce miscommunication, they prevent burnout, they build trust, they build self-trust,
Mhm.
and they help leaders and teams support each other without having to guess.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need? Brenda, could you go ahead and explain like how to use them and why they work, and give us some examples of those?
Yeah. So, like, everyone says self-care is so important, and this is the most obvious one that I can think of. Self-care is so important. You gotta meditate, you gotta stretch, you gotta exercise, you gotta read, you've got to journal, you gotta drink some water or tea in the morning. You gotta do all of these things. And if you have a normal schedule, which I know most of us probably don't, but if you have a normal schedule, work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, you're like, great, I'm gonna have to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to get all this done before I go to work, right? It's like,
Right.
I can't do that because, I don't go to bed until 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I need to get my sleep, which is very important. So what you do is you just take a post-it note, right, and put up like bedtime. What do you need to do to wind down before you go to bed? And it's not going to be the same thing every night, right? Because some nights you might be really tired, some nights you might be a little bit wired, whatever it is. So put some healthy options on that right underneath bedtime, of what you would need to do, like meditate, or maybe listening to some soothing music, maybe reading. Maybe you want to read that night because you're a little more spun up or whatever. Um, Maybe it's a gratitude practice that night because, boy, you're just having a really hard time and you want to feel grateful for something. Maybe you feel like not like your confidence has been eroded for some reason during the day. So right before you go to bed, 3 things you did well during the day, right? Pump yourself back up. Tell yourself you're awesome. Flirt with yourself a little bit. I don't care. Okay? Maybe it's you need to stretch because you feel a little tight or whatever. You don't need to do all those things every night before you go to bed. And same thing in the morning, right? You don't need to do all of those things. But you need to stop and go, what do I need right now? What I need. WIN, win, right? For the win, take a look at those and go, that's what I need right now. And then go and do that thing. Right? And you can put these everywhere. You can put them on your refrigerator. You can put them in your workout room. You can put them on your bookshelf. Like, this is what I need to read tonight or today. What I do in the car. Right? You can even do this in meetings. You can sit there and you can do tactical breathing, right? Shorter in, longer out.
Hmm.
Get yourself back into your parasympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system by doing that. You can do that in a meeting, right? You can tap your toe. You can do heel raises in meetings, which are amazing. Um, for so many, that's a whole other thing. I won't go into it, but just doing heel raises lowers your blood sugar better than a lot of things. So you can do these things while you're on the phone. I don't care. You can come up with a whole list of them. I got a whole list. I'll send these to you. You can probably put them in the show notes, maybe. Um, a whole bunch of different ideas, and then put stuff on that works for you too. That may not be on my list, and then let me know so I can add it so it can help other people.
Yeah, that's really awesome because people think it's got to be something complicated,
Yeah. No.
and it doesn't have to be. It can be
No.
so simple, and it's kind of funny because I was sitting here doing toe raises with my right leg when you said that.
Awesome.
It's yeah, it really is so simple, but people make it hard because they don't want to do it. They don't want to think about it. And those wind cards, I've already, like I said, I've got them on my refrigerator already, so that when I go foraging for a snack,
Yes.
when I'm actually not hungry,
Right.
maybe instead I get a glass of water
Yes. Yes.
and drink that water. And I've really raised my water consumption just in a few days since we talked.
Oh, that makes
So,
me so happy.
and it's just little things like that. I have one in my car. I have a post-it note in my car so that when I'm out and about and I have time to sit and wait, because I
Yeah.
often do that, then I'm doing something like maybe I get out of my car and
Mm-hmm.
walk, or maybe I try to find something new to listen to, a new podcast to listen to.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
best friend Brene Brown,
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
know, has lots of episodes out there.
Yeah, and
Where
her and
people
Adam
you
Grant
can
and
get
Simon
coffee
Sinek just got
sometime.
together and did a podcast, so I can't wait to dig into that one. But yeah,
We'll make this our official invitation for Brene to come have coffee with us.
yeah,
Or
I love
water.
it. Or water, yes,
Or water.
absolutely.
Uh, but the whole point is, folks, is that if you really want to make a difference, you have to move from awareness to action. That's the point. And I'm very I'm so happy that people are starting to make these connections, and I'm even more happy that we've got people like Brenda out here in the world reinforcing those things, the practicing that, teaching us about don't slime people unless they're ready to be slimed, and it's actually not sliming if they're ready for it, if that's what
Right.
they're there for.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
uh,
When people come up
and,
and talk to me and talk to you when we speak, that is not sliming, right? That
right,
is something that we have opened ourselves up to do. And so I
correct,
don't want anyone to take that away from like that. I don't want to hear your stories because
right,
I'm in a position, I put myself there, you've put yourself there to hear those stories.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely, and you've also brought us Leaf and the 1% and the wind cards, and there's so many things that you've done that are just amazing for you. So, Brenda, I want to thank you for your service and your leadership and your continued dedication to humanity.
Yeah.
Um,
And ditto. Ditto.
and well, thank you, and for those of you out there listening today, um, take one action today, even a 1% action, toward your own resilience. You'll never, ever regret it. Since I've started taking that 1%, and I take 15 minutes at bedtime every night. And that 15 minutes for me is either listening to a vibrational hertz of music that will help calm my body. It may be thinking, and this comes from a little bit from yoga nidra, but just relaxing my body and thinking from head to toe, doing a check-in. What does the air feel like on my skin? Where do I have pain today? Where do I not have pain today? That I might always have pain. Um, and I also do that in the morning. So I'll wake up in the morning. I'm like, oh, how am I feeling right now? Do I need to do some yoga stretching? And for all you guys standing out there, listen to me here. This is important. I have introduced more guys to yoga, and and I'm not a yoga teacher, but I've introduced more guys to yoga, and they've thought, yeah, right. Folks, it's not about some guy sitting cross-legged on top of a mountain with the sunshine behind him. It's not what it's about. Yoga is a workout, and it will make a huge difference in your mobility. It will make a huge difference in your ability to get through a day. You know, take your arms back and just stretch. And again, pay attention to how that feels. How does it feel in your body when that happens? How do you feel when that stretch is released? Because right now I just released that stretch, and what I feel is I can feel the blood pumping through my arms because I went like this for 30 seconds. you know? So the point is take action. That's where we make a difference. And I want to thank you all for being here today, for joining us. Bernae, just let us know when you're ready to have that coffee. And I'll meet you in Wichita. I think you're in Texas. You're in Houston, I believe. So we can meet you in Wichita. Or if you don't want to leave Houston, I'll go pick up Brenda and we can drive down there.
Okay.
Same for you, Sharon Glass.
Yeah.
Remember, be strong enough to stand on your own. Be aware enough to know when you need help and be brave enough to ask for it. That's the key. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.